where so little attention is being paid, or at least your attention is so devoted to the game, you really don't even see things that really are highly visible, but they're not part of what you're paying attention to. You just don't see them.
And then there was the clip of a similar clip with people in dark and white shirts trying to pass something to another, while a person in a gorilla suit walks.
Yeah, I've got that. Yes, but if you can even, well, we'll see that one in a minute. But this is the mild version. The one you're talking about is the absolutely total blow you away, unbelievable version. But that was much later. Hello? And we're going to first need to learn about an idea that's been around for a long time in psychology. It's not just something that has to do with attention. It's an old idea that some attentional theorists picked up. And it's, as I said, it's been around for a long time. It deals with the sense that we kind of have ideas that are outlines. We have a general idea of what a restaurant is. We have a general idea of what a basketball game is. We have a general idea of what a car wreck is. And when we see a specific restaurant, or go into a specific restaurant, or see a specific basketball game, or witness a particular car wreck, what we're doing is taking that general idea of, say, basketball game, which has a lot of slots in it. You know, you have teams with a certain number of players. You have an official. You have a wooden court with a basket at each end. Or in a restaurant, your schema of a restaurant is a general idea of what a restaurant is. It usually involves tables, chairs, somebody taking an order and bringing you food, somebody cooking it off, usually out of sight, having to pay for the food. Either you pay the person who brings it or you pay at the cash register on the way out. And then you know you're in a restaurant. You walk into a restaurant and you know that it's a restaurant by the fact that it has these elements. Except in this particular restaurant, these are the tables. In this particular restaurant, the menu includes this particular kind of food. There are in this particular restaurant, there are two waiters and a waitress, and you're supposed to pay them rather than pay up front. It's like we have a general idea of something, and then we recognize something as being a specific instance of that idea. That has two important consequences. One is, you know, it enables you to identify something. You know you're watching a football game because it matches. You see something taking place, you search through all of your schemas, or schemata actually is the technical plural, for one that this fits into. Oh, this is a basketball game, or this is a football game, because it matches your schema. Basketball game matches your schema. Football game. If you don't have a schema to match something to, that's when that feeling of puzzlement and kind of confusion happens, where you're scratching your head and don't know what's going on. What's happening there is you can't find a schema to match this to. For example, there's an extremely weird sport that they play in Canada called curling. Anybody know what that is?
More or less.
With the ice and the... What it is, if you don't know, just imagine watching this on TV. You turn on the TV, it's some broadcast from Alberta or somewhere of a sporting event, and there's a guy down here, there's a circle here, and the guy down here, there's something that looks like an automobile wheel, except it's all filled in, and the guy pushes it down the ice. And then people who appear to be his teammates run along in front of it with brooms, sweeping the ice. And then the thing just goes down there and it stops, and either everybody goes, rats, or and you have absolutely no clue what just happened, what that was. Well, you have no schema to identify something as a curling match. What that is the trick is to push it's called a puck. It's not like a little hockey puck. It's a great, huge thing that you're supposed to push it with just enough force that it'll land right in the middle of the circle. It's kind of like horseshoes. But the guys with the brooms are the ones who control the speed and movement of the puck, because the harder they sweep, the more the ice melts. And the more the ice melts, the faster the thing goes. So if they think it's going too fast, they back off with the brooms, so it'll dry up and slow down. They think it's going too slow, they sweep like crazy to make it go faster. And I don't know, they're interested in weird things in Canada. But if you're watching, I remember the first time I saw one of those on TV, what is this? That's because you don't have a schema to match the incoming visual input. You don't have a framework. You don't have an idea with slots in it that you can use this thing that you're seeing to fill into the slots. That's what a schema is. General outline that you have in your head of a category of something or of a particular type of event. You said to have a schema for the event or a schema for that category of thing. Not only two really major functions of a schema is that one, they tell you what kind of thing you're seeing. This is a chair because it matches my chair schema. This is a car because it matches my car schema. But then what the schema does is activates the appropriate knowledge to tell you what to look for. to tell you what to look for. What you're seeing enables you to activate the right schema, but then the schema tells you what to do and what else to look for. Oh, this is a car. It must have a steering wheel. It must have a place to start the engine, so you look for that. It must have a gas pedal and brake pedal. I wonder where they are. So you find them. And so this idea has been around for a long time in psychology. It just fits most people's intuitions of what happens when they come across something, come across a new thing. First somehow know what it is, and then once they identify it, they know what else to look for. What all this has to do with attention. Is that when we're looking at a situation, it activates a schema from our memory. And anything that's not part of that schema and is therefore totally unexpected, we just don't see. You don't see a girl with an umbrella walking across a basketball court because that's not part of your schema of a basketball game. But it doesn't need any kind of elaborate mechanism to explain why it's blocked out. You don't need a filter. You don't need a limited short-term memory. You don't need any of the things that the theories we talked about last time include. It's just not part of your schema. You don't see it. It's not part of your schema. You don't expect it, so you just don't see it. Seeing is an active process in this idea of picking up information, and if you don't know to look for it, it might as well not be there. And that's all there is to attention. Attention is a process where your schema tells you what to look for, and that's what you look for, and we say that's what you're paying attention to. And if you don't look for it because it's not part of your schema for that situation, you just don't pick it up. You just don't see it. And there really doesn't need to be any other process for attention besides that. I mean, when we were looking at that video, we didn't set some kind of visual filter to pass through only the guys playing basketball, but block the girl with the umbrella with the net. I mean, we can't have a filter like that. It's just the girl with the umbrella. The girl with the umbrella is not part of the schema, so we just don't see it. No other mechanism is necessary. Now let me show you a simpler version of that. I don't have a video of it, but I want to use it anyway because it's simpler to understand. It's simpler to analyze, figure out what it is that's happening. In this, the Ulrich Neisser is the guy who has the schema theory of selective attention. And to answer the question about names and multiple choice questions, I'll say something like, in Neisser's schema theory of selective attention, there's a filter that blocks most of the voices. There's a filter that attenuates the sounds that you're hearing. Something that's not part of the schema is not picked up, or attention requires a great amount of effort or something like that. And I want you to pick which one of those four is right, which of course would be in Kaiser's theory of selective attention, events not fitting into the schema aren't picked up. Okay, this is a study by Kaiser and Becklin, who also did the one with the basketball game and the girl with the umbrella. A different one they made was, they didn't have computers to do this with at the time. So I forgot to mention this last time. Anne Kreisman, when she did that thing with switching the messages between the two ears, she did that with recording tape and scissors, because it was done in 1963, and splicing it together must have taken her for weeks to make those tapes. But it's easy now, but it wasn't back then. Same year, they did a double exposure of two videotapes, and one was a hand clapping game, like a patty cake thing, and the other one was a ball game. And so they're shown together. Like here, you got the hands doing this, and then here you've got the basketball game. What they're trying to do is come up with a visual analog of dichotic listening. Dichotic listening is where you get to play the different stories to the two ears. Here, and they tell you to follow one or the other. Here they're showing you two different visual events, and they're either going to say, pay attention to the clapping game, or pay attention to the ball game, and see how much you can report from the one that you aren't paying attention to. Same exact idea of listen to the story in the right ear, and then I ask you what you remember about what came into the left ear that you weren't paying attention to. Here, I tell you to pay attention to the clapping game, and then I ask you questions about what happened in the ball game that you weren't paying attention to. I want to see if this works in a visual situation the same way that Cherry and those other people found attention to work with messages being listened to. They got largely the same results. If they were told to watch the clapping game, they could do it, no problem. If told to watch the ball game, they could also do that, no problem. But whichever event they paid attention to, they could remember very little about the other one. So far, just like the dichotic listening experiment, where they're supposed to pay attention to the left ear or the right ear or the man rather than the woman or this conversation instead of that conversation, they can set their attention to whatever is directed. It's directed. They're directed to wherever they're told to direct it. And they can tell you everything that happened in the thing they're paying attention to, and just like with hearing, they can tell you almost nothing about what went on in the other one. So they successfully duplicated the results from the dichotic listening experiments in the video circumstance. And gotten the same results. But now let's think of one important difference here. Broadbent's original idea, Treisman's original idea, and to some extent some other ideas, had the idea that something gets blocked on the basis of a sensory characteristic. You block out the high voice, and you hear it, but you can't say what happened. Or you block out the voice over there, and you hear it, but you can't say what happens. You set a filter according to some basic sensory characteristic, like pass a particular color, pass a particular location, pass a particular pitch. That didn't happen in this one. Whatever the attentional mechanism was, it couldn't have been a filter where you paid attention to one thing by blocking the other thing. There just wasn't anything available to set the filter to set a filter to. They couldn't pay attention to the bright picture or the green picture or any other simple characteristic like that, because they took great care to make sure that the two videos didn't differ on any simple characteristic like that. It wasn't that one was brighter than the other. It wasn't one was a different color than the other. The only difference between the pictures in the double exposure was the story. One is a hand clapping game, and one is a basketball, and one is a basketball game. In this one, they have to be paying attention to one story and not the other story, because there is no simple sensory characteristic they could use for paying attention. They can't be paying attention to the loud one because they're both the same loudness. They can't be paying attention to the brighter one because they're the same brightness. They can't be paying attention to the blue one and not the green one because they're the same color. They have to be paying attention to one story rather than the other story. This is a really important finding in the research on attention that was going on at that time, because the thinking, however the exact mechanism was that you pay attention by something simple, and then you understand the thing you pay attention to. But they're saying, what they're trying to dream up here, and what they're pretty successfully did, is one where there is no simple characteristic. You just got to pay attention to one story or the other story. The paying attention is not on the basis of some early stage sensory analysis. It's got to be you understand both of them and pay attention to one story instead of the other story on the basis of its meaning, not what it looks like, not what it sounds like, or anything like that. You don't need a filtering mechanism that's based on some simple characteristic, which was a really important finding at the time. The existing theories then was that you had this filter that was set to some superficial physical characteristic. There was no simple physical characteristic to set a filter to in this situation. So whether a filter is sometimes necessary or not, or whether a filter is sometimes used or not, it's not necessary. It can't be all there is to paying attention, because in this case, they're paying attention to one story instead of another, meaning paying attention takes place after you've already understood it, or at least already identified it. Basically what happens, according to this theory, which is kind of given away by the fact that it's called the schema theory, when you first see, when you see the stories, you activate a basketball schema and you activate a patty cake hand clapping schema. And then when I tell you to pay attention to the hand clapping game, what your cognitive machinery is hearing is pay attention to the hand clapping schema. Activate the hand clapping schema and use that for understanding what you're seeing. Or when I tell you to pay attention to the ball game, what your cognitive apparatus hears is activate the ball game schema and then follow what you follow on the basis of what fits into that. What you pay attention to depends on what schema that you activate, which is to say, it's in this theory, it's done on the basis of meaning, not on the basis of simple perception.
For example, like, I know, like my nieces and my sister-in-law, they could be in front of the TV, and you say something to them, and they completely block you out. They like hyper-focus, so if they don't let anything else in, that you have to actually go and touch them. So it's like they're focused on just one thing.
That could be either one. That could be a filter thing because your niece has a different voice and is in a different location, so you could just set a filter to block that. But your niece is also a different person than the people you're paying attention to, so it could be that you activate this schema but not her. To test that, what you would have to have is both your niece and the other story on the TV, and they look alike and sound alike and be in the same place. But I tell you to pay attention to your niece, and you pay attention to her just because she's your niece. You activate the niece schema, and you pay attention just on that basis, not what she looks like, not where she's coming from. If you could do that, then that would be a schema type thing. But if in most cases, it could be either one, and it's hard to tell. But that's what you would have to do to be able to tell the difference.
Oh, what about like when you walk into a room, like you walk into the room, and it's repetitive, and then you walk into the living room, and then there's someone sitting down, and you just walk right by them, and you just block them out, like really you just don't see the person.
In this way, in this way of thinking, whatever schema you're operating under when you walk into that room, what you're thinking of this room as being, it's empty.
So it's like an expectation.
No, it is.
It's like an expectation.
It's an expectation. Your schema determines what you expect, and what you expect determines what you see and don't see. That's kind of the focus thing.
But you can have like multiple schemas of the living room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get too far into schema theories, but you have a schema of a living room that includes a schema of a TV set, a schema of a sofa, a schema of what a rug is, and then the sofa schema is made up of the schema of what cushions are and so forth. You really, the idea of schemas is more complicated than I made it sound, because you got schemas within schemas within schemas. But yeah, what you said is right.
So basically, they're saying that first for anything we think of a schema, and then we pay attention to everything that fits it.
Right.
Like
That's exactly, and that's all there is to attention. Was their original point. Paying attention is entirely based on what schemas are activated. In more common terminology, on what you expect, on what you think you're looking at, and what you expect of it. That's a long way of saying schema. So, we really, according to Meisner and Becklin, we really don't need, this was in the 70s, those others we were talking about were in the early 60s. You just really don't need all of those other ideas that we looked at on the flow charts last time. Schema is activated for one game, and the other one just isn't picked up. That's all there is to it. You don't need a filter to explain it. You don't need fast forgetting to explain it. It's just a matter of if you don't expect it, you don't see it. Now, this is, you don't need to remember this, but this is in a context of theory Neisser had at the time about perception not being a passive process. It's more like a process of going around actually picking things up. If you don't pick it up, you don't have it. And this is an application of that basic idea. Now let me show you the other one. Back to this in a second. Maybe a little on the different form.
Most of the time, our vision does a wonderful job, but there's a limit to how much our brains can cope with. So we just pay attention to one thing at a time, and we're blind to the rest.
The brain has a huge amount of information being delivered to it by the eyes. It has to make a decision. It has to decide where to place its attention, what information it should scrutinise, what information it should ignore.
To test just how much we ignore, we've asked Richard Wiseman and the London Towers basketball team to try out an experiment designed by scientists at Harvard University. The idea is simple but silly. We film the team practicing, and then this happens. Surely no one would miss that. We get a group of people together, and Richard briefs them to watch the screen without letting on what they're being tested for.
So this is an experiment. It's a battle of the sexes, men against women. There'll be a difference, but I'm not going to say which way round it's going to be. And it's just a simple observation test. All you need to do is you'll see there are 3 guys in yellow here, and they have a basketball. And it's your job to count the number of times they throw the basketball to each other. Now, to make things slightly harder, there's also 3 guys in blue tracksuits. But you ignore them, ignore their basketball, and just concentrate on this one. So if we can run the tape. Okay, so that's number 1.
Crucially, the volunteers are told to count how many times the yellow team passes the ball. But will that be enough to make them miss the gorilla? So did they see anything?
Okay, if we can stop the tapes there for the moment. So how many basketball throws? 20? Any more than others? 21? Okay. Okay, be honest here. Anybody notice anything a little bit unusual? Be honest. Okay, it's just about 4 or 5 of you. Excellent. The rest of you not noticed anything strange, honest? Okay. Right. For you guys, enjoy this moment. When the first time I saw this, it completely threw me. Now I want you to watch the tape again, but this time just watch it as you would a normal piece of television. No counting the basketball, anything like that. We can have the tape.
Time to show them what they missed.
Here it comes.
Because they were all concentrating on counting, their brains just didn't register the gorilla.
I'm absolutely shocked. I can't believe it. I was so proud of myself as well because I got all 20. And I was so busy concentrating on it.
I'm kind of embarrassed. I thought I spot a monkey walking across the middle of the screen.
I was completely astounded. It was just kind of, when he did the kind of like that, I was just absolutely amazed. I was gobsmacked, I'd say. I can't believe, and saying they might probably switch the video or something like that. I can't believe that you could miss something that obvious.
That's really bizarre. It's freaked me out there.
I totally fell for the one with the girl with the umbrella. And I also thought they were lying to me. But then I saw it. When I was expecting it, there it was. If nothing else, this something we see over and over and over again in cognitive is what you see is half dependent on what's really there, but it's just as much dependent on what you expect to see. Those two things make an equal contribution to what you end up perceiving. And we won't get into a lot of memory issues in this course, like what happens when eyewitnesses witness an event, but they just are that kind of testimony turns out to be almost worthless because of this. Because you don't just see what happened, you see what happened and what you expected to happen in that context, and you can't tell the difference. That's the really spooky part about it. But anyway, we're on the subject of attention, and that tells us that we can if filtering ever happens, it doesn't. It's not necessary. It doesn't always happen. That was the last slide. That was. This is something else about the one that we just saw with the gorilla. It turns out that yes, while you can pay attention to one schema or another schema,